Your DJ library is full of gold, but after analysing hundreds of libraries, I've discovered most DJs are sitting on loads of killer tracks they'll never play. Not because they aren't good, but because their library system is broken. In this video, I'll show you 3 new ways to find these hidden gems that go beyond just looking for zero play tracks. And you'll be able to surface bangers you'd completely forgotten you had in less than 10 minutes. I discovered recently I wasn't playing half my best tracks because my tagging system was still in 2018. In recent years, I moved away from my trance roots into drum and bass. But I never went back to re-tag the smattering of drum and bass tracks I had from back in those days. That meant I was always overlooking them in newer sets, even though they were bangers. The best way I've found to hunt these tracks out is to set up an intelligent playlist. First, I'll set up a rule to pull in drum and bass tracks. I tag those with my tag, so I'll use that here. Then, I want to find tracks that match tags that were in my old trance-based system, like this euphoric tag. That will give me a quick list of tracks that I can re-tag so they're easier to find in future. This is also a great time to spot tags I may have stopped using recently without even realising it. Sometimes certain categories just fall out of favour as your DJing progresses over the years. That means older tracks that did have those tags you no longer use just get forgotten about. Head into your collection and open up the filters menu. Uncheck everything, and then tick the tag you want to explore. Have a quick scan through the results one by one. If a tag only shows up on 5 tracks and the last one was added in 2018, then re-tag those tracks to get them back on your radar. But bad tagging isn't the only reason that good tracks get pushed into the shadows. The next mistake makes your track selection feel completely random, even though you think you're in control. I'm talking about filthy orphan tracks. These are tracks that you might actually play occasionally, but they never make it into a real playlist, meaning you never put them in your sets intentionally. What's the big deal, I hear you ask? The problem is they aren't mentally tied to anything else in your library, so you never think of them when you're planning a set, figuring out moods, or planning story arcs within them. So how do you spot these homeless fools? In Rekordbox, you can find orphans by clicking on the track and then clicking on the Is in Playlist drop-down above the browse view. If the track is in a playlist, it will show up in the list here. We want to look for actual playlists we've created, not history playlists. Because as we've already established, you may actually randomly play them sometimes. If there are no real playlists in this list, then we've found ourselves an orphan. Now this is a bit of a fiddly task, so most DJs never even notice these orphans clogging up their library. That's one reason I built a tool to automate this, Library Dojo. It scans your Rekordbox library and builds a playlist of every orphan track so you can get them integrated into your sets properly. It's almost ready for launch and I'll be announcing it on the newsletter if you want to try it. The link's in the description. So far we've been looking at metadata and organization, the silent killers that can make your best tracks completely invisible. But some tracks never stand out in isolation, and even the best tagging systems will never surface them. They're like the B-sides of your library, easy to scroll past because they're not as glamorous as the A-sides, but they can still be absolute face melters when paired with the right track. I'm going to show you how to hunt these guys down, and then build a system to keep them in reach. You can probably think of a few transitions you know work really well, and if you watch some of my other videos, you may even have playlists that actually have these pairings in them. In Rekordbox, load up 2 tracks you know blend well to the players, and line things up at the point you usually mix them together. I give you permission to use sync here. Run the transition and then ask a few questions. What role does this transition play in my set? You might be used to asking this question at the track level, but by thinking about it in terms of the transition, it helps you find new track combos that can fulfill the same role. For example, I sometimes use QZB Haste, which is a sort of rollery, jungly type affair, paired with a second drop of Chase and State as program. I often use this transition when I want to move to more of an amen sort of thing. So here, I'd ask myself, what other tracks then program can leave space for the QZB vocal while still moving the drums into a more of an amen vibe? At the risk of being obvious, Euphonic and Aries Amen is probably another candidate that I'd rarely play by choice on its own. So reframing transitions as a tool for navigation helps you bring unexpected tracks into the mix. The next question to ask is where in the track structure did the transition hit, and why? If the transition on the outgoing track works really well over an incoming vocal track, then I can start to plug in some different vocal-based tracks to fill that role. Or if the transition was based around a really long floaty intro into a massive drop, then I can start to play around with different tracks that do the same thing. The third and final question, and probably the most important of all, is why did this transition work in the first place? For example, this double with I Believe and Running Blind is great, even though Running Blind wouldn't normally stand out on its own in my library. On I Believe, the second part of the bar calls on the bass and is replaced by a synth stab. And on Running Blind, the second part of the bar has no synth, but the bass rises in pitch a bit, which works really well with that synth. Now, I can go and look for other tracks with similar structure, not similar sounds, to do the same job. Some other things you can look for here are tracks that cause contrast, have some interesting key interplay, or similar grooves. Once you've found a few new transition pairings, you can create a playlist like I showed you before that manually maps them all out, or you can use Rekordbox's matching function. Click the little down arrow next to the waveform magnifying glasses, then click the little chain icon. This will make Rekordbox remember that link in its database. Next time you load one of those tracks and it's on the master deck, you can go into the related tracks function, then click the cog, make sure matching is selected, and then you'll see a list of any tracks that you've matched together. This really helps bring new tracks into the fold that you never consider on their own. Fully utilising all the tracks you own before you start adding new music is essential for building a sustainable library long term. So when you're ready to build full sets around them without killing your creativity, check out this video next where I show you how.